So we've now moved on to our next Pilates section, and we're going to start off with the stretch for the front thigh muscles. So Fee's just going to bend her leg and then hold on to her leg with her hand. And this is quite hard to do, to actually reach around, because you want to be as relaxed as you can when you do this stretch. So if you are finding that really hard, you can get either a strap or use your exercise band that you used earlier on in the session, and then either one, place it around the foot and then just hold onto the band, and that just gives you a little bit more room to play with. When you're doing this stretch, really focus on pressing your hips down into the floor and really pulling your tummy muscles in tight. So again, you're pushing forward with the hip, lifting your belly button so that you're really focusing on trying to stretch and lengthen this front thigh muscle out. So if you change legs now, keep breathing nice and deeply as you do this as well, and then holding onto the strap. It's actually easier to do this on your own rather than have someone else do it. That's it, okay. And then just really release the tension in the front thigh muscle. Now, you may not have too tighter muscles here at the moment, but as you go through your pregnancy, this muscle tends to shorten, this one at the front of the hip, so it's a really important stretch to start establishing now. And often, if you do a lot of sitting, particularly, this muscle can be quite tight, so again, another good reason to stretch it out. Okay, Fee's going to release her leg now, so you can do the same thing. And I'm going to get Fee to turn over now, so she's lying on her back. We're going to do an exercise now called the bridge. Now, this is a very traditional Pilates exercise. I'm going to get Fee's block and take it away from her head, and I'm actually going to put it between her knees. You can use a cushion or a rolled up towel, whatever you've got to hand. What this does is it helps to put Fee's legs into the right position, so she's got her feet hip distance apart and her knees are also hip distance apart. If you find your hamstrings, the backs of your thighs here, start to tense, then get rid of the block, because that can often make them tenser. So you want to try and keep those muscles, if you can, as relaxed as you possibly can. So we're going to start in a neutral position. Now, a neutral position in a back lying position is where you have a little hollow in your lower back, but your tailbone, your sacrum, feels as though it's flat to the floor. So I can get my fingers part way underneath Fee's back here, but I can't get my hands all the way underneath. So if you check that with your own fingers, you should be able to get your fingers part way underneath your back, but not all the way through. Also, the pelvic bone at the front here should lie nice and flat, tummy lying nice and flat. So the first thing I'm going to get Fee to do is to take a breath in. I'd like you to do the same thing, and then as you exhale, just tighten through your core muscles, pull up through your pelvic floor, hollow your tummy. You're now going to just tilt the pelvis, pressing the small of the back into the floor, and just hold that position. Now, when you've gone from a flat position to a tilted position, you should feel stronger, because you're now using the outer abdominal wall to pull the tummy muscles back towards your baby. Just flatten again, so just allow yourself to go back into that neutral position, little hollow in your lower back, and take another breath. Inhale, exhale, pull up through the pelvic floor, hollow your tummy, and tilt the pelvis, pressing the small of the back into the floor. I'm now going to ask Fee to lift up. Just watch this first one as she does it. Lifting up through, peeling the back up off the floor. Now, what's really important as you lift up here is that you don't allow your back to overarch here. So a little trick here is to actually think of tipping the pelvis. You're tucking your tailbone underneath you slightly. This will pull a little bit on this muscle that we've just stretched. Another good reason to stretch it first, because it makes it easier to go into this position. And you're really trying to push your tailbone between your legs as you pull your tummy in, drawing back towards your baby. Now roll back down again, tucking, tucking, tucking as you go down, really hollowing the tummy, trying to get the upper back down towards the floor before your bottom hits the floor. Take another breath, inhale, exhale. As you exhale, pull up through the pelvic floor, hollow your tummy. Make sure you're hollowing and then start to go into a tilt. So you activate those core muscles, that transversus abdominal muscle first, then start to go up into your bridge. Now, what I want Fee to also do, again, tuck slightly so that you're not overarching the lower back. And also, by doing that tuck, you can squeeze your buttocks a lot tighter. What we don't want is the hamstring muscles, the backs of the thighs working. We want Fee to work into her bottom. If you're finding it, again, it's all in your hamstrings, lower down 1 or 2 vertebrae, so just lower down for me, Fee, and that will release some of the tension from the hamstrings. Now hold this position and try and squeeze your buttocks a little bit more without lifting or changing your back position. Really trying to tuck under with the pelvis to try and maximise the squeeze in the bottom. Then start to roll down. Try to keep breathing all the way through. Don't hold your breath at all. And you can see here that Fee's back's quite stiff at the top here, so this is a good exercise for her to do. So as she goes back up again, pull the tummy muscles in, rolling all the way up. Up you go as well. Hold that position. Really draw in, hollow the tummy, squeeze the buttocks, and then as you lower down, try to snake your back down to the floor, coiling like a snake, really tucking your pelvis underneath, going into a tight C shape as you roll down, so you try and get that bit of movement going in through the upper back as well. Okay, for our next exercise, I'm going to get Fee to do something called a heel slide. Now, if you're working on a mat or if you're working on a carpet, you're not actually going to be able to slide your heel, which is why this exercise is called a heel slide. So what we're going to do is slightly lift the foot off the floor and then go into an extension and lengthen with the leg. If you've not seen this before, you might want to take it out, take a little look at the exercise before you actually do it. So holding a nice neutral line again, pulling up through the pelvic floor, hollowing your tummy. Exactly the same as before, little hollow in your back, tailbone is to the floor. But this time, Fee's going to take a breath. As she exhales, she's going to lift her right leg a tiny way off the floor. You can lift your right or your left, doesn't matter. And then continue to exhale and extend the leg out, but this is really important. The hips do not move. Take another breath as you exhale. Draw the leg back in. Do not let your hips move. Do not let them move. Do not let them move. Take another breath. Inhale. As you exhale, extend and lengthen the leg out. Keep pulling in with your tummy. Don't let this area here move. Take another breath. Bring the leg back in. To help you check you're in the right position, place your hands onto the hip bone and just check that the hip bone doesn't move as you do the exercise. So again, go again, extend the leg out, keep exhaling, don't hold your breath. Take another breath in. As you exhale, bring the leg back in. That's good. And again, take a breath. Try not to let your knees wander out to the side. Exhale, lengthen the leg. Keep hollowing your tummy. Do not let your pelvis move. Bring the leg back in. I'm going to ask you to do that one more time on each side. This exercise is really, really important for working the core muscles and isolating the core muscles. If you're holding your pelvis in neutral, it means that you are just working the core muscles and not using anything else. And this is a way to really help strengthen the core. If you find this exercise easy, then you need to reassess what you're doing because it shouldn't feel easy. If you're concentrating on those all-important core muscles, it should actually feel as though it's quite tough.